What is up, movie nerds? We are here with Robert Davi, the star of Davi's Way, and probably over 130 more films. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about Davi's Way.
It's 1974. Did you ever see the concert at Madison Square Garden called The Main Event?
Of course.
And I would like to recreate that night. So the camera followed me around for just about 2 years. Needless to say, there's a lot of comedy, a lot of drama, a lot of heart.
But it has to be in April for budget reasons.
I don't know how to put all that together by April. I need you to help with maybe getting somebody. Busta Rhymes. You know any females? Adele? I don't want this angle, ever. Is there enough light underneath? Get me a filter. You gotta light me like a girl. Danny A is in it, and Chez Palminteri, and Quincy Jones, and Joe Mantegna. Acting, I've compromised, but I will not compromise the music.
So singing has been a huge part of your career. Obviously, Frank Sinatra is a huge influence on you. How important do you think it is for other artists to have another creative medium in their work?
Well, I think it's imperative. I think anyone who attains any kind of expertise in one art form, it bleeds out into all areas of that, because it's more about the process of creating, the process of expression. And when you understand the journey it takes, and the time it takes, and the commitment it takes. You cannot make an event in 2 fucking weeks. You can make a bad independent fucking movie in 2 weeks. Your life should be a work of art. Mm-hmm. Ideally, should hopefully, your lovemaking, everything should be like a creative work. Your relationships, friendships should be a work of art. And that's the highest attainment, I think, right? I think we all want to have that feeling. I mean, even the creation of who you are and yourself. As people, we paint our lives. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We put ourselves together in certain ways. So the singing was always a very big part of my life, even, early on.
Yeah, when did you start singing?
I started, I guess, as a kid. I remember my poor dad, I'd be 11 o'clock at night, I'd be singing to these Caruso or Mario Lanza records and Sinatra and all of that. Yeah, that was very early on that I wanted to sing. And we discovered that I had a voice, and I was athletic and passionate about acting and singing, and I was obsessed. I didn't go to beer pong parties as a kid. You know what I mean? I didn't care about that. I didn't care about what car I drove. I didn't care about this trend and whatever it was. I cared about my internal artistic life and how I was going to attain the vision that I had for my life. Mm-hmm. My biggest frustration, I have 5 kids. I have a bunch of kids. And I want to instill in the children, especially my twins that are 17, the accoutrements of life are not what's important. It's the essence of it. They're great kids, but you want to be able to, grab that passion that you have, and don't worry about the next kickback party. I didn't know what a kickback party was. My kid is always going, Dad, we're doing a kickback party. It was like incredulous to me. Go see an art film, read a book. You know what I mean? That was to me. I remember kids in high school having these parties. I could care less because there was something deeper that was driving me. Maybe that's an old-fashioned thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's clear that you've been very committed to living a creative life. You've been in so many films. You've had such a fruitful career. How do you think the industry has changed since you started acting to how it is now?
From what I hear, and I think, and they're, kids are so bright today, and they get information so quickly. From YouTube, from other media sources like this show. And when I grew up, it was more like we have to make a pair of shoes. How do you do that? Mm-hmm. How do you learn about the leather? How do you pick out the leather? How do you shape the leather? What tools do you use? So I was always obsessed with who was the best teachers at the time. I wanted to know, me growing up, Marlon Brando was the iconic acting figure. So you wanted to know, how did Brando, what was his process? All aspects of his process, or Lee Marvin, or Eastwood, or, Pacino. What was the process? What did they go through? And you then wanted to follow that journey. much like a spiritual journey. You know, I was reading Krishnamurti and a lot of the spiritual shamanistic books for your own internal spiritual journey at the same time, because it all converges into who you are as a human being and as an artist. So I understood through that process, through biographies are good to read. So I read so many different biographies of great artists and musicians to find out what path they took. And then I would try to follow that path as closely as possible. So it was a total immersion in the process of becoming, where today, and I'm not knocking the reality TV and stuff like that, and the Kardashians and the Jersey Kids, whatever that is, that show. But that's what kids think. Even my kids, they watch that and they think that's life. And all of a sudden they want, eye extensions or eyelash extensions at 17, and they want to do this and they want to do that. And I say, wait a second, it has nothing to do with that. What has to do with you finding who you are in this life creatively first, and put your passion into that. The rest will follow.
I am thrilled to introduce my dear friend Robert Davi and the event.
Yeah, fellas, sit down, enjoy the music.
And what do you hope, or what do you think the audience is going to take away from this film?
Well, I hope there's I hope it gives people a peek into the process and appreciation also for the music, the American songbook. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, the behind the scenes, what it takes to put something on, or what an artist goes through. And no matter what you attain in life, it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be satisfied. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think there should always be so I think it's an encouraging film. It's a funny, very funny film. I'm really very self-sufficient. I'm not high maintenance at all. Every venue I like to have a humidifier. If I have a hat on, it comes off. Leave it on for today because I know you haven't coiffed your hair.
The battery died. Unbelievable.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to go see all of Robert Davi's series, films coming out within the next couple of years, and we will definitely be updating that on MovieRanker. And remember to keep watching movies. Thank you so much. Hell yeah.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
Yes.